everyone. This is really exciting for me as an AMARI-II alumni fellow. But I hope everyone is doing good today. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from the various parts of the globe, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Daphne Tlamo, and I'm an AMARI-I alumni. And I'll be your host today. I hope you'll be able to enjoy this program. I'm really excited about AMARI-II as someone who participated in AMARI-I. I really found AMARI as a very good program. I benefited a lot from AMARI-I. It really catapulted my career. So very structured program with a lot of capacity upskilling for the students. So for me, I really found it very exciting, and I benefited a lot. And I hope all of you here will be able to learn one or two things from today. And from you making time to be here, it means this is a very important program for you. So let's sit back and enjoy the ride today, and really welcome to the AMARI-II launch today. And thank you, a big thank you to everyone for joining us for this launch for the second phase of AMARI. And let's try and break down these acronyms. I know I started talking about AMARI, but let's break them down for the benefit of those who are new to AMARI, and also for the benefit of those who are all the AMARI friends, but maybe may have forgotten. So what does AMARI stand for? So AMARI stands for African Mental Health Research Initiative. And this is a program of the Developing Excellence in Leadership Training and Science in Africa. In short, that's Delta's Africa. And some of you may ask, what is AMARI? What is this AMARI we are talking of? So AMARI is a mental health research capacity building program, which was initially launched back then in 2015, and really future leaders in mental health, neurological, and substance use. So in short, we refer to it as MNS, and substance use research in Africa. And today, really exciting to be seeing new faces, old friends, old names. Some we see some faces. I see Ngawi there. Really, a really great shout out to some of AMARI's old friends. I see Maui, I see Tandiwe, Lisa, Dr. Alfonso. The list will go on, so I won't be able to give a shout out to everyone. I see Catherine there, Claire, Lydia. Really, for me, this is really exciting. And so please allow me to acknowledge our funders. So the Science for Africa Foundation, which is represented by Dr. Alfonso Neba, who'll be speaking later on during this program. And we also have Wellcome Trust, and we have the UK Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, which is FCDO. And I would really want to acknowledge the Zimbabwe Ministry of Health and Child Care. We know you are busy, you have busy schedule, but just you carving out time for us today really means a lot to us as AMARI today. And we hope you are going to enjoy this launch today. And we also hope it means a lot to you as much as, because for us, this is something that we hold dearly, so dear to us. And we hope it also have this the same significance for you. So welcome to our Ministry of Health and Child Care. And we also have various stakeholders who are joining the call today. And I will not be able to name each and every one of you, lest I forget some. but we really appreciate you taking the time off out of your busy schedules and joining us today. So please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Just put your name and where you are joining us from and which institution you represent. Would love to know everyone who's on the call today and get to know you. At least once we know who's joined, we'll be able to follow up beyond this. And just a few housekeeping rules before we start. May everyone please be on mute your microphone if you are not speaking. And when you speak, when you speak, it would be good for you to just introduce yourself briefly and then speak. So we want to utilize the chat box as much as possible for all the questions. Any comments you may have, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address all the questions at the end. We know we just have a couple of hours and we want to make maximum use of this. We'll move on from there. So without taking much of the time, I would really want to introduce Dr. Prof. Chibanda, who needs no introduction. So if you know about the Friendship Bench, then you know who Prof. Chibanda is. So Prof. Chibanda is the principal investigator. He was the principal investigator for AMARI and is the principal investigator for AMARI-II and is also program director. So he'll give us some official welcome remarks and speak to us about the AMARI program and really what we expect to see in the next 4 years. And I hope you'll be able to talk about AMARI-I into AMARI-II. What is the difference? What new? What else should we expect that's new in AMARI-II? So without further ado, I'll hand over to Prof. Chibanda. Take it away, Prof. Chibanda.
Thank you, Definite. Firstly, can you all hear me and can you all see the screen? Good.
Yes, we can hear you.
I want to start off with, I was looking at this first slide and it reminded me of a Shona proverb, Definite, which says, kukura kurerwa. Now, those who are Shona speaking will know what that means. Those who are not Shona speaking, now Shona is the local language in Zimbabwe, quite similar to Swahili. So I'm not going to translate kukura kurerwa, but instead I'll try to explain it through the AMARI story. Before I do that, I just want to start off by acknowledging the names and pictures that are not included in this first slide. People who were instrumental in AMARI-I, the likes of Charlotte Hanlon, Professor Charlotte Hanlon, who was the PI for Ethiopia, Professor Crickland, who was not only involved in AMARI, but was also actually my PhD supervisor when I did my PhD at UCT. Professor Ricardo Araya, very instrumental, not only within AMARI, but also within Friendship Bench, a great mentor over the years. Helen Weiss from LSHTM, a great statistician, together with her team, which included Lorna Gibson and Vicky Sims, and of course the advisory team, which consisted of Victoria Mtisu, Vikram Patel, who you all know, and the late Fred Hickling from Jamaica. That is really the slide behind the slide that you are currently seeing. Those are some of the founders of AMARI that we need to constantly be acknowledging as we move forward. Now, going back to the Shona proverb, kukura kurerwa. The first time we had our interviews for AMARI-I in Nairobi, more than 10 years ago, I was in Nairobi with Francis Cohen, who has been a great mentor over the years. And I remember during our time in Nairobi, I said to Francis, I am the least qualified person to be leading AMARI. And Francis said to me, it's not about that. It's about us believing in you. And so I just want to start off by thanking all of you for believing in me more than 10 years ago. And particularly, thanking, Francis Cohen, who has been not only a mentor and friend over the years, but she was one of the persons that I often turned to together with Crick Lund when things were really messy. And we've had moments where things were quite messy in AMARI, and I won't get into those details here. That's not what we're here for today. We're here to celebrate the launch of AMARI-II. So with those few words, I'd just like to share a few slides, illustrating the journey of from AMARI-I to AMARI-II. I'll do next slide. So just some key milestones to share with you about AMARI-I, where we're coming from. In AMARI-I, the focus was to train 48 fellows, as MPhils, PhD, and with 5 postdocs, which we managed to achieve. We also had over 90 peer-reviewed publications from our fellows. We managed to successfully build a leadership skills program of the AMARI PhD and postdoc fellows through the KCL Career Development Series on leadership, management, and mentoring. We also designed and tested an advocacy and systems change strategy for each AMARI country, which has subsequently gone on to identifying the key areas of focus in AMARI-II. And of course, last but not least, our fellows managed to raise close to $1 million through independent and seed grants. And for AMARI-II, we are looking at raising a lot more than that. So with AMARI-II, we are really building on lessons from, we're building in from lessons from AMARI-I, where we still focus pretty much on the same problem, where we have a huge care gap of mental, neurological, and substance use disorders on the continent. And so our solution is to build capacity of the next generation of researchers in this field, in this space, where we want to focus on training, mentorship, supervision, career development, and including soft skills, which cover the broad area of leadership and the grant writing area as well. And so we hope to see more grants coming in, which are actually led by the AMARI fellows. What do we do this? No, we need to go back. How do I move this? Sorry. And so the impact that we hope to see over the next couple of years is improved mental health outcomes in African communities, coming up with culturally appropriate mental health interventions, sustainable career pathways. We need to engage policy makers, and AMARI-II is specifically going to be focusing on engaging these stakeholders at policy level. And this is the outlook in terms of AMARI-II as a consortium. The big vision for the future is for AMARI to have a presence in every country in Africa. At the moment with AMARI-II, we have 3 hubs: the West Africa hub, which is going to be driven from Ghana, and the East Africa hub driven from Ethiopia, and we have the Southern African hub, as you can see below. We do hope that as we bring in more key players within AMARI, both at institutional level. We will have a presence in more countries across the continent. Our key objectives over the next 5 years include training 85 research fellows at master's, PhD, and postdoc levels. But what is actually new in AMARI-II, which is different and was not present in AMARI-I, is the provision of internship to key policy program stakeholders at local, national, and regional level. This is important because we need buy-in of mental health innovations that are being developed on the continent. We need to have governments across the continent to support these innovations if they are going to go to scale. The second objective is to build technical mental health research abilities through an MPhil program and researcher career development skills through delivering on AMARI-I ACES course. In AMARI-I, we established a strategy on how we can introduce these new trainings in different institutions across Africa. Objective 3 is to develop a cohort of independent research leaders through a network of early and mid-career researchers. And I'm glad to say that this objective, based on achievements from AMARI-I, we have actually now, come up with a cohort of researchers that are really making a difference in the different areas that they are focusing on. So we plan to raise 5 million for research and capacity building together with this cohort from AMARI-II. Our fourth objective is to provide implementation research skills required to take to scale promising initiatives from AMARI-I. And objective 5 is to provide sustainable quality mentorship and supervision for the fellows. Here are some of the research questions for AMARI-II, which are really a continuum. What's this? Yeah, so sorry about that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can.
Yes, we can.
Sorry, there was a suggestion that it was not clear. So the research questions that we hope to cover in AMARI-II include, in line with the MRC framework for designing and evaluating complex intervention, really understanding acceptability, feasibility, and the effectiveness of culturally appropriate interventions for mental disorders in African countries. We also want to look at the validity and reliability of instruments for assessing mental health needs in African countries as we shift towards using some of the more non-traditional delivering agents, such as community health workers and non-professionals. It's important that the tools that we use to actually identify people needing assistance are actually culturally relevant and are rooted in rigorous research. Thirdly, the social determinants of mental health in African countries. It's important that we focus not just on the clinical presentation of different mental disorders, but the social determinants as well, and how best we can address those. Fourthly, the effects of COVID. We all know what COVID did in Africa. So this is an important area, and it's encouraging to see that research around COVID related and associated issues around the continent is actually gaining traction. And fifthly, what support do early career mental health researchers from Africa need to build sustained independent research careers? There are some cross-cutting themes, which include ethics, youth, climate change, public engagement, mental health systems, complex interventions, to name just a few. So it's really an ambitious program that we are embarking on for the next couple of years. Research leadership and capacity building. This is probably the crux of the work that we do, because we truly need to develop the next generation of leaders who are going to take over what was started more than 10 years ago. We need to be confident that we can hand over the baton to the next leaders who will make a difference and carry on with AMARI to ensure that AMARI becomes a strong force across the continent. And so we are really excited in AMARI-II to be collaborating with the Africa Leadership Center, which will see us develop new strategies on how best to build the leadership skills and capacity of the next generation of leaders in this space. So we will be focusing on training, mentoring, career strategy, grant writing, engagement, and work-life balance. Work-life balance is so critical in AMARI-II, just as it was in AMARI-I. And so I'll just conclude by acknowledging the funders of AMARI, primarily the Science for Africa Foundation, Wellcome Trust, and the UK Aid. We are truly honored that you have seen the need to continue with the support that you are giving AMARI-I, and we hope that we will achieve greater beyond AMARI-II as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Chibanda, for those really profound words and really inspiring and exciting work that we look forward to for the next 4 years. And just really, just a few remarks just from your talk there. I think what's new to AMARI, that provision of internship from your first objective is really critical in terms of giving the scholars or fellows the opportunity to be in the work environment and see what the work is like and to try and implement the skills and exercise the skills that they'll have learned. That link to policy is a critical one because we really need buy-in from policymakers. If there's no buy-in, then there's nothing that we are doing. Implementation science, another big one, because if we come up with all these interventions, we know the social determinants of mental health, but we cannot bring it to scale. I don't think there is anything that we are doing there. That's the crux of the matter. And I like that you showed us the research questions that you're really focusing on for AMARI-II and the guiding framework, which is the MRC. And I think it shows how structured the program is, where we are going, how we've learned from AMARI-I, how we've improved from AMARI-I, really great. Second from last is really the health system strengthening for mental health. The question I'll leave everyone with is, are we ready? Is Africa ready? How do we sustain all these skills that are being built in Africa? If there's political buy-in, if the policymakers are on board, how can we sustain this? And just a reminder for everyone to put your questions in the chat. I'm sure there's so many questions that people have. How's this going to happen? Where is it going to happen? Who's going to be a part of it? So please do not shy away from putting all your questions in the chat, and we'll move on and we'll address all these questions at the end. So our next speaker is none other than Betty Zephaniah, who's the acting provincial mental health officer within the Harare Politan Province. And she's representing the Director of Mental Health Services Department in the Ministry of Health and Child Care. So Betty will speak on some of the mental health research initiatives that the ministry is involved in as part of their efforts to bridge the mental health treatment gap in the country. So she's really going to give us our keynote address and focus on research-based mental health initiatives as part of the government of Zimbabwe's efforts in cutting the huge African mental health treatment gap that exists. So over to you, Betty. Please take it away.
Hi, Dave. Seems Betty hasn't joined us yet, so I think we can proceed to the funders' remarks and have Dr. Alfonso speak.
Okay, so thank you, Biggie. So as we wait for our Minister of Health, will invite Dr. Alphonsus Neba, and he's speaking on behalf of our funders. So Science for Africa Foundation, and Dr. Neba is the manager of the Deltas Africa program. And let us hear from him on the funding landscape for science research in Africa. Remember, Prof. Chibanda talked about sustainability. So how else can we hear about it unless we hear from our funders? So over to you, Dr. Alphonsus.
Thank you very much, Definite. I think maybe to ensure I don't run into problems with the bandwidth, I'll just take this opportunity to switch off my video. I hope that's okay. So I would like to start by congratulating AMARI on your success in renewing the Deltas Africa grant. It was indeed a highly competitive process. And on behalf of Welcome and FCDO, I would like to thank you all for actually successfully implementing Delta's Phase 1. And it's because of the success that you registered in Delta's Phase 1 that together with the other Delta's Phase 1 programs, we were able to show to the main funders, Welcome and FCDO, that the Deltas initiative was a game-changing program on the continent in the various areas of research that the program is being implemented. It is also important to note that Deltas Africa II renewal was made possible within a very tenuous global financial environment, which was made worse by the global COVID-19 pandemic. A critical decision point in the renewal process was the high quality research carried out by all Deltas I programs and the leadership demonstrated by all the Deltas I program directors. As a matter of fact, it was indeed difficult to pinpoint any areas wherein the program fell short. The renewal therefore showed a high level of confidence in the global public health leadership demonstrated by the Deltas Africa Initiative directors, of which quite a few Deltas Africa programs leverage the skills and resources within their networks to execute important early stage COVID-19 related work, which helped shed light on the COVID-19 pandemic from an African perspective. I note that there have been significant changes at Welcome with some implications on how we deliver and report on Deltas Africa Phase 2. And the main change is that Deltas Africa 2 is funded by the Science Division at Welcome Trust and not the International Operations and Partnerships Division, as was the case in Deltas Africa 1. This means that there will be more emphasis on the science and science outputs that Deltas Africa 2 grantees will generate and report on. So as you implement AMARI-II, always be in a position to demonstrate the science that AMARI-II is pursuing and its outcomes. I spent some time as I prepared for these remarks to look at what some of the most pressing mental health challenges on the continent are. I was able to identify stigma and discrimination, limited access to mental health services, traditional beliefs and cultural barriers, conflict and post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, youth mental health, maternal and child mental health. These are very important gaps that as a continent we are struggling to address. And addressing these pressing mental health challenges in Africa would require a multifaceted approach that includes destigmatization efforts, increased investment in mental health infrastructure and resources, and community-based initiatives, together with culturally sensitive interventions. So as we launch AMARI-II today, we need to reflect on how we can leverage the skills, expertise, tools, and leadership that AMARI has developed over the past 7 years to expedite action towards addressing these deficits in mental health on the continent. Let me then seize this opportunity to remind you all of the main aim of the Deltas Africa program and the 4 pillars or strategic areas of the program that contribute towards achieving the main objective. The main objective is building a critical mass of globally competitive research leaders that will design and drive locally relevant research agenda and programs to generate evidence and data to inform policies on the continent that will contribute to improving Africans' well-being. The strategic areas or pillars are enhanced scientific quality. In other words, Deltas Africa must produce world-class scientific research that addresses African health and research priorities through scientific discourse and collaborative supervision by promoting collaborations and well-resourced, by promoting collaborations with well-resourced universities, research institutions, and think tanks to strengthen capacity. The second area is strengthened research leadership capacities. So to strengthen scientific research training and building career pathways for scientific researchers, Deltas Africa focuses on the tertiary and postgraduate training of science students and professionals along a defined career pathway. The training offered by Deltas Africa programs is designed to provide individuals at all career stages with the academic support and research facilities they need to develop into world-class researchers. The third area is strengthened research systems. This entails cultivating professional environments to manage and support scientific research, which recognizes that developing and supporting research requires that researchers have access to skilled administrative support and adequate resources to compete at a global level, and that creating supportive, sustainable environments is crucial to developing research capacity. The last area being scientific citizenship or societal engagement, which entails fostering mentorship, leadership, and equitable collaboration in science and engagement with public and policy stakeholders. Deltas Africa recognizes that for research to achieve real impact, it needs to be communicated to policymakers and the public. Communicating research findings to policymakers will ensure that the findings inform policy. At the same time, public engagement is also key to raise public awareness and interest in science, increasing the uptake of new health policies and treatments, and strengthening relationships with local communities. So these are the 4 strategic areas that we have recognized as necessary for strengthening, sustaining, attracting, and retaining talent and excellence in research. There is a concept that we have mentioned repeatedly, and I think when Dixon spoke, he also mentioned it, the whole concept of building critical mass. Let me just take a moment to comment on this. So while we focus on a critical mass of globally competitive research leaders, we must realize, however, that building a critical mass of quality, long-term research programs, research support staff, research collaborators and partnerships, and quality research institutions all form part of this concept. And therefore, our success as Deltas Africa would ultimately be measured by the footprint that we leave on all these and other areas. There have been a lot of lessons that we learned during Delta's phase 1, and I would also just like to comment on them, that we could draw on these lessons and improve our outing in Delta's phase 2. The first one would be maybe the Qatar Evidence Program and the Qatar Joint Advanced Seminar Series. The evidence program that one of the Delta Africa programs is implementing uses artificial intelligence to track its fellows from the time they get into the program to the time they are in the program and when they complete and what happens after the program. And with this, you are able to show clearly the impact of the intervention that the Delta's program, and in this particular case, Qatar, is able to produce. So there's irrefutable evidence that the interventions that the Delta's program is bringing to bear in terms of developing critical mass can be demonstrated by this type of evidence intervention using artificial intelligence. The Joint Advanced Seminar Series is also very, very important in the sense that it develops a specific curriculum to address the weaknesses that a lot of the candidates that we recruit into the programs have to address in order to excel in their programs. The program has also been very, very important to the extent that a lot of other universities outside the Qatar Consortium network, and it's something that we believe that even within the 14 Delta Africa programs, we could also learn from. There are other areas around mentorship, supervision and supervisors training, co-supervision arrangements, co-funding, advocacy for the Delta Africa initiative, joint applications with other Delta Africa programs, exchange programs, and lots more that we need to draw from. The reality is that behind the excellent science outcomes like publications, patents, keynote speaker invitations, high impact publications, new grants, recognitions, lies an equally excellent research management support machinery. So we aim to support the various program management functions across the 14 Delta Africa programs so that they could equally excel in supporting you scientists as you implement your programs. We have already signaled that we will be creating different fora for each program support function and create opportunities for the various staff to collaborate, share experiences, learn from each other, and benefit from Science for Africa Foundation supported capacity building initiatives. Let me then conclude with a bit of updates from the Science for Africa Foundation. We are pleased to note that the Science for Africa Foundation is now a growing concern. We are all aware of the difficult circumstances under which the Science for Africa Foundation came into existence, but now that's all in the past, and we have the requisite systems, the board, policies, and other processes that enable us to deliver science on the continent. We have adopted a new strategy that is focusing on key areas that include health, agriculture, and climate sciences. We are in the process of developing a new program in youth mental health and well-being that would be very much interested to all of you who are part of the AMARI consortium. So as I conclude, I would like to reiterate that what happens in AMARI-II and all the other 13 Delta Africa programs will determine the fate of the Delta Africa initiative. You must have heard me quote Jeremy Farah, the former CEO of Wellcome Trust, many times over the past years, but it is still necessary that I repeat his advice here once more. If AMARI-II pursues excellence will in turn pursue AMARI-II. Likewise, if all 14 Delta Africa 2 programs pursue excellence will pursue the Delta Africa initiative, and this initiative will remain a sustainable program over the long term. So the future of the Deltas Africa initiative in a major way will be determined by how you roll out AMARI-II. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfonso. Thank you so much for those really enlightening remarks, and saying that we heard you say AMARI-I was a huge success, and it's really encouraging coming from the funder and not coming from the implementer themselves. So really thank you for confirming that. And you talked of the 4 strategic areas, and for me, what resonates is really the strengthening of research leadership skills and careers, the research systems, the societal engagement. I think you also talk about building a critical mass of mental health research leaders, which Prof. Chibanda also spoke of when he talked about the goal of AMARI to expand throughout Africa. I think we keep hearing this recurring theme about expanding, building this critical mass of researchers. And I think I'll go back to say, in terms of the health systems, are we ready? We do have political will. Are we ready? And what can we do if we are not ready? So thank you so much. And we really appreciate AMARI-II through this funding. And for now, we'll try and go back to our policymaker. So I see Betty Zephaniah is back on. So again, as way of introduction, she's the she's the acting provincial mental health officer within the Harare Province, and she's representing the Director of Mental Health Services Department within the Ministry of Health and Child Care. So Betty is going to speak on some of the mental health research initiatives that our Ministry of Health and Child Care is involved in as part of efforts to bridge the mental health treatment gap in the country. So her keynote address is going to focus on research-based mental health initiatives as part of the government of Zimbabwe's efforts in cutting the huge African mental health treatment gap. So welcome you, Betty, please take it on.
All right, thank you very much, Definite. My apologies, I've been having some network challenges. Anyway, my name is Betty Zephaniah, and I'm the Acting Provincial Mental Health Officer for the Harare Metropolitan Province. And I'm here at this platform representing the Deputy Director, Mental Health Services. And thank you so much for inviting us into this important platform of the launch of AMARI-II. So definitely, maybe what I can start by highlighting is to appreciate the okay. I don't know, can you hear me, Definite?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really, I would want to appreciate this opportunity to be at this platform, especially looking at the launch of AMARI, and as the Minister of Health and Child Care, we really appreciate that. So basically to say that I would want to appreciate that evidence-based intervention is quite very important in addressing mental health interventions globally and even regionally as well as nationally. So basically what I can say is that with in developing countries, for example, here in Zimbabwe, we really face a lot of challenges as we are seeing a lot of mental health issues coming out, and really it's an issue of concern. And what I would want to say is that in our country, we are facing mental health conditions that includes suicide, depression, substance use disorders, among other psychotic disorders, and the use of research, or the involvement of research in actually informing our interventions in trying to address or to try to bridge the mental health gap or the treatment gap in the Ministry of Health and Child Care is very, very important in our country. We know that mental health issues, really, they do contribute significantly to the global disease burden. And in Africa, we know that with mental health conditions, there is quite a wide treatment gap. When we look at even the global statistics, where we say that in Africa, we have around 10% of people with mental health challenges, 10% of individuals with MNS conditions or mental neurological substance conditions in sub-Saharan only have access to evidence-based treatment as compared to other international or other developed countries. Hence, this is one of a gap that we are facing in Africa, not only in Africa, but also in Zimbabwe as a whole. So I would want also to say that as Ministry of Health and Childcare, there are a lot of research that are happening, but at the moment, if I can highlight, research is happening, but not as extensive as we would want. And we do have researches happening in terms of mental health and also trying to address mental health issues and also informing our interventions. But however, these are still limited and though we know that much and more research is happening, but it's quite limited as we want. So really to try and help close the treatment gap, we also want to have more research coming in, informing us on how we can actually intervene in terms of addressing mental health issues in our country. However, I would want to appreciate and also I would want to highlight to you that there is a lot that we are trying or that we are doing as a ministry, and there are a lot of research-based interventions that we are implementing currently as the Ministry of Health and Childcare. And for example, I can highlight that as the Ministry of Health and Childcare, we have also adopted, if you might be aware of the WHO initiatives, such as the MHGAP program. Referring to MHGAP program, maybe I might want to highlight, it's called the Mental Health Treatment Gap Program. And this has been adopted in our country, in the Ministry of Health and Childcare, and it's aiming to actually try and bridge or to address the treatment gap in mental health. So basically, as we speak about the MHGAP program in the country, I would want to inform you that the country has managed to conduct a pilot study in Mashonaland West Province, one of our provinces in Zimbabwe, and the pilot was done. And soon after this pilot, the country is now expecting to roll out this MHGAP program in other various provinces that we have in our country. The aim of this program is to try and scaling up mental health interventions and also trying to task shift mental health services, as we know that we have a lot of gap in terms of accessibility of mental health services. And most times we are seeing that most of our clients or most of people who have mental health challenges, they have challenges in accessing mental health service delivery or quality mental health services. Why? Because of issues to do with limited resources that we have in terms of human resources. So basically this MHK program is trying to ensure that primary health care workers are capacitated with mental health information, and they're also capacitated in terms of trying to be able to assess for mental health conditions at primary health facilities. They are able to make diagnosis of mental health conditions, and they are also even able to intervene, providing interventions that can either be pharmacological interventions or psychological interventions. So this is one of an approach that the government is using. And as I have said before, we have this program being rolled out as we talk right now, as we are speaking right now. The process of rolling out of this program is happening in 4 of our provinces in the country. So we are hoping to say that after the rollout of this program, we have healthcare workers at primary health facilities who are non-specialized, being able to offer mental health service delivery. And we hope that this will also help us in trying to bridge the treatment gap in our mental health system. So this is one of an initiative that the government is doing, and this is also done in partnership with other organizations and I spoke about WHO. We have got other organizations such as the Friendship Bench. We also have other organizations such as Zimtech. They are also into HIV programming, hence we are also integrating. So these are some of the initiatives that we have that are also research-based. Remember, the MHGAP is also research-based, and it has been seen that it really plays a significant role in terms of trying to bridge the mental health treatment gap that we have in our country. Not only in Zimbabwe, but remember, we're also looking at other developing countries. So I would also want to mention that with this MHGAP program running in, we also have other initiatives, and we have initiatives, I'm sure we have Prof. Shibanda here, and I'm sure you might be aware of the Friendship Bench model of intervention that the government has also adopted, and we are also using this intervention at community level, and we've also moved to primary level of care, whereby we have at community level the model of intervention on Friendship Bench has been taken to the community workers. We have community healthcare workers who are being trained to offer this community-based model of intervention in trying to address mental health conditions or other mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety disorders. So with the Friendship Bench model of intervention, this is one of an innovative research-based intervention, which I'm sure you might be aware. And we have clients that are being assisted, and also issues of depression, issues of anxiety disorders, issues of conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder, among other common mental health disorders, which are mild and moderate, are also addressed by the use of the Friendship Bench model of intervention. And as we speak, this intervention, it also speaks about interventions such as we have psychological interventions such as problem-solving therapy, which is being used by the lay cadres. They are trained and they are capacitated on how to provide such interventions, problem-solving therapy, as well as other interventions such as support groups. So we see a lot of progress, and we see a lot of reduction in terms of mental health conditions after we have patients or clients coming in at the Friendship Bench model of at the Friendship Bench for mental health assistance. So this is one of an area that we are also strengthening in the Ministry of Health and Childcare, and we have a lot of support that is coming in from different partners. As we speak right now, we have got WHO, which is also coming in to support this Friendship Bench model of intervention. We have got other organizations such as the UNSA DIV. It's here as well, supporting the scaling up of the Friendship Bench model of intervention, so that is then implemented across all the country and across all the districts in the country. I would also want to say, also looking at this Friendship Bench model of intervention, remember we spoke about the MHGAP, but we also have this this model also being cascaded to what we call also lay cadres at primary health facility, where we are trying to increase also the capacity for early detection and treatment of mental health conditions using the problem-solving therapy. So as we speak right now, under the process that is happening under what we call the Friends Project, we have also the lay cadres such as the nurse aides, and we also have lay cadres such as the PCs, the counselors who are also working in different departments within the primary health facilities. They are also being capacitated also on this model of intervention, so that there is proper task shifting of provision of mental health service delivery within the primary health facility. So this is exactly what is happening in the ministry. And as I'm talking right now, trainings are happening, and we are expecting that the rollout in 4 provinces will give a much impact on how we are going to be addressing mental health issues using these models. So basically, also to say, I would also want to say is our healthcare workers, remember we are talking about also these initiatives that we adopted from the WHO, and we also have other components that we're including as we train our healthcare cadres. Remember, we have got limited healthcare workers who are specialized in mental health in Zimbabwe. Yes, the task shifting is also enabling us to be able to decentralize mental health service delivery. So we are bringing in other components that can also strengthen this program, so that the healthcare workers who are working in primary health facilities or any other level of health facilities that are non-specialized, they are well capacitated in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, also in terms of their ability to provide a comprehensive mental health service delivery. So we have got other components such as the EPIP, which has also been adopted from the WHO. And as we are training our healthcare workers at primary level of care, we are also bringing in other components such as the EPIP program, which are online platforms that we're using to help and also to improve skills, especially when you're now looking at the soft skills, or when you are skills such as the capacity for someone or a healthcare worker to provide a comprehensive psychological intervention within the primary health facility. So we have got these components that are coming in, and we are bringing them together during the processes whereby we are training our healthcare workers. We want to assess their skills, we want to assess their competencies. We also want to assess how they also provide psychological interventions. So all these are competence-based skills that we are also trying to capacitate a healthcare worker so that when they go to primary healthcare facilities, they are able to provide comprehensive and mental health service to our clients. So we have got the EP platform that has been integrated into our trainings, both the problem-solving therapy trainings under the friendship bench model of intervention, and also under the MHGAP training. So these are some of the activities that we are doing as a ministry. I would also want maybe to highlight that as the ministry, also in terms of trying to increase our capacity for mental health in terms of knowledge, skills, and also even improvement of our attitude. Remember, issues of attitude and behavior are also a contributing factor to people accessing mental health service delivery. So we are also aiming and
sorry,
we are also...
Betsy, a 1 minute check, sorry. We're just running out of time. Thank you. Please continue. You have another minute.
Okay, thank you so much. So basically, as the ministry, this is what we are doing, and maybe also to highlight maybe that all these projects that we are doing, we are actually implementing what we also call the mental health special initiative program. So all these programs that I've spoken about that are research-based and that are also there to address mental health treatment gap in our country, they are actually falling under what we call the special initiative program for mental health. And Zimbabwe was one of the countries which was actually selected to implement the special initiative program for mental health. And there are a lot of there's a lot of progress that has been happening under the special initiative program, and also having other key priority areas that we identified also to try and assist to close the mental health treatment gap, and also to improve the general mental health system service delivery, also including the components of revising our mental health act and also our policy documents, so that these are also aligned to the international standards in terms of trying to address mental health issues, and also even issues of human rights, as well as issues of human rights are also incapacitated in that model. So basically, this is what I can say that we are doing as the Ministry of Health in trying to bridge the gap that we have in our country when it comes to mental health service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty, and really thank you for taking your time from your busy schedule. We know you are really busy, but we can really tell the passion, and we're excited when our policymakers are passionate about the work that they do, and we are in sync. You heard what Prof. Chibanda talked about. You are talking about the friendship bench and how it's been put to scale, and you're piloting the MHGAP, which Prof. Chibanda talked about as well. And also our funder talked about how everything is coming together and the success that AMARI-I has been. So really, really excited to see how everything is coming together and how the various partners are working in sync. And just to say, I hope there'll be an opportunity for AMARI-II fellows to also plug into the implementation of MHGAP in March Central, where you are piloting MHGAP. But thank you so much. So just as a good segue, we have our next speaker, who's none other than an AMARI-I fellow, a friend, a colleague, and he's going to talk to us about his experiences with AMARI-I as a fellow, and we are really happy to hear more from him and his experiences as a fellow and possible recommendations for AMARI-II. So this is none other than Dr. Jermaine Lambi. So take it away, Jermaine.
Sorry about the minor technical glitch. So thank you very much, Definite, for the introduction. So the title of my presentation is Mentorship as an Active Ingredient for Success. So this is my outline. I will briefly touch base on my PhD work, what I'm currently doing, and end with my reflections as an AMARI-I alumni. So I'm not going to bore you with this slide, but what this slide just shows is a summary of my PhD work, which looked at the mental health of caregivers of children with disabilities. And why I'm presenting this is that after my PhD, I did a master's in clinical epidemiology with Stellenbosch University. And ever since, my portfolio has really expanded. I'm now much more into global mental health epidemiology, psychometrics, evidence synthesis, and implementation. I think something that the incoming fellows can also, consider. And in terms of my current work, I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe, and I'm also a research consultant for the Friendship Bench, and I'm also a postdoc. So I'm sure many fellows or many people in this meeting have seen, have come across this particular picture.
Morning.
So this just shows, the projections versus realities of a PhD journey. It's always, a roller coaster, but I can tell you that at the end of it, it's all worth it. So for me, I think it's also looking at what sort of strategies can you then implement to kind of survive along this journey. So for me, I had three top strategies, survival strategies, as I termed them. So the first one was the importance of self-care. Then second strategy was work-life balance. And the third strategy is that of peer mentoring. And for the sake of time, I'm going to focus much more on mentoring, on how it has helped me to go through the PhD and how I'm actually using mentoring as a way to advance my own career and other people around me. So there are different forms of mentoring, and there are also different definitions in terms of mentoring. I particularly like the Cambridge definition, which says that mentoring is the activity of giving a younger or less experienced person help and advice over a period of time, especially at work or school. So for me, AMARI-I was life-changing. I think this was my first time, getting some form of formalized mentorship. I'm sure we all go through informal mentorship in our day-to-day lives. And through AMARI-I, we went through the ACES course, which was a structured leadership training program, which also focused on mentoring as one of the clusters. So for me, mentoring has been quite instrumental in terms of how I've progressed in terms of, my career. So this particular slide just shows some of the work that we have published over the past 5 years. And to note is that this is work done by undergraduate students. And if you look at all these publications, these are, undergraduate students as first author in international peer-reviewed, journals. And this has been, one of the byproducts of the ACES training program, where, when it comes to research supervision, I think we need to take it a notch further, not just as an academic exercise, but also as a way of trying to build the next generation of, of mentors. So for me, it's one of my proud moments, to share such kind of work that has been done, exceptional work that has been done by undergraduate students. And I would want to, throw this challenge to the incoming fellows to perhaps, identify someone whom you're also going to mentor. This is quite important because if you are to grow, if you are to develop a critical mass, you also need to take alongside with you someone whom you also mentor, and more importantly, to keep on writing. I wish I had the whole hour to talk about mentorship, but I thought perhaps I could share, a case study on one of my high-flying mentors. So his name is Sydney Muchengwa, and he's currently a master's in occupational therapy student at the University of Cape Town. And I should say from the onset, I think there's, as my advice to the incoming fellows, you definitely need to have a strategy. Yes, the going can get tough, but if you have your long-term and short-term goals, it's easier to, to reroute in terms of finding your direction. But more importantly, to harness and make use of social media and other platforms for community engagement and dissemination. So I will share briefly, Sydney's Gen, how it started and where he is at the moment. So it started him being, my undergraduate student, and our objective really was to get the best mark. And fortunate enough, he got a distinction for his undergraduate program. And the first publication that you see, it's a preprint. This is actually something that we have submitted for peer review, which is work that is coming out of his, undergraduate undergraduate thesis. Then the next phase for his career development as part of the mentorship plan was to also see how best to support him in terms of also applying for grants. And he was involved in one of our Wellcome Trust funded active ingredients commission, firstly as a research assistant, and secondly also as a co-author on the final article. And with all these outputs, I suppose this was also instrumental for him getting a prestigious MasterCard Foundation scholarship that he is now he is on, and is actually studying for his master's in occupational therapy at UCT. And at the bottom of the screen, this is our latest publication from our research group, where in this particular instance is actually the corresponding author on that particular publication. And he has actually taken a notch further in now mentoring the next, next generation of early career researchers. So if you look at all of this, it's seeing a progression in terms of one developing in terms of their research, career, which started in our particular case as a supervisor student kind of relationship, which he then evolved to mentorship until to a point where he's now actually co-supervising other undergraduate students, and is also mentoring the next generation of researchers. So for me, I see this as a classical example of how we can make mentoring sustainable, given the resources that may be at our disposal. So this particular slide just shows a summary of some of the awards that I've received over the few years, and I would want you to focus on the right side, which is a recent award that I've been shortlisted for the NIMH Vista Award. Whether I get the award or not, but I think what's more important is showing the journey that I've walked through, from being a PhD fellow to, a post doc. And more importantly, this just is a reflection of, the importance of mentoring, because without, a team of wonderful mentors, I perhaps may not be at this stage, but I'm at this stage because of, of course, a lot of hard work and a lot of strategy, but more importantly, I think above everything, mentorship has been the key to my own career progression. So what are my recommendations for AMARI-II? I think we need lots and lots of mentoring because I'm a testimony of what mentoring can do. So I would want to see a lot of mentoring for AMARI-II, and more importantly, to build upon, the leadership and training skills from AMARI-I, including things like, soft skills training, leadership skills training, and more importantly, having bespoke capacity building initiative, capacity building initiatives that meet the needs, of the consortium at large, but more importantly, meeting the fellows' needs. And I think there's also need for a formalized way, to have some form of writing training and support. And I think this is where you can also harness perhaps the expertise, from AMARI-I fellows, where, there can be a team of, of leader writing support, but more importantly, to have internal grant writing supporting mechanisms. For instance, like an internal committee. And I actually like what what Prof. Chibanda said in terms of what they're expecting fellows to also, raise, some research grants. And I think it'll be good to consider having like an internal grant review committee, so that as fellows submit their applications, they'll be highly competitive, and more importantly, to have a lot of activities that address self-care, and more importantly, working towards work-life kind of balance. I would like to see more of that. More importantly, to also have like if funds permit, to have like dedicated writing retreats, so that fellows can also have good opportunity to refresh, but more importantly, build on their research writing skills. And lastly, I think I would want to see more of public engagement and dissemination, particularly training towards, engaging policymakers. I think this is one of the things that we definitely need going forward, so that, whatever that comes out of AMARI-II has, sustainability and high level of impact. So my take-home message is that I think we need to really see as we go, how best do we harness mentorship, first at the level of peer mentoring, and at the level of senior mentoring, where established researchers or much more senior fellows can also provide mentoring to the MPhils and PhD students. So I would like to acknowledge my mentors, in particular, Professor Chibanda and Professor Melan Abbas, who have been quite instrumental in terms of my career advancement. And more importantly, AMARI-I fellows, who are also on this particular call, were quite a huge inspiration to me. And I think the peer mentoring was really transformational. And more importantly, I would want to acknowledge my research team, my students, and all, because in all of this, they are quite instrumental in most of my research activities. And lastly, I would like to acknowledge the different funders who are actually funding my work. Thank you. Over to you, Daphne.
Wow, thank you so much, Jermaine, and truly inspiring. That's a very inspiring journey. And I hope we can all take a leaf from there. And key takeaways, the issue of mentorship that you highlighted is really key in its various forms and shapes, depending on where you sit and where you stand. And the issue of that plethora of publications, it's truly amazing. The grant writing, I think we can all learn from there. And I think most importantly, you spoke about having a strategy, being able to think about sustainability from the beginning, being able to see the end from where you stand, I think is a key takeaway for me. And I really like the quote you put to say, we all need someone who inspires us to do better than we know how. Because I think we are all great at what we do, but we need to look at the other side. How can we do it differently? And that's the only way we can succeed. So from there, I really encourage everyone to put their comments, their questions in the chat. Please, let's not tire. We'll forget the questions at the end. So let's put them in the chat. and reminder to put our to mute our mics so that we do not interrupt the presentations. So to give us our next keynote speech on capacity building in mental health research in Africa is Prof. Tolani Sodi. So Prof. Sodi is a registered clinical psychologist currently employed as a professor of psychology at the University of Limpopo in South Africa. His key areas of research interest include youth mental health, culture, mental health policy, behavioral medicine, and implementation science. And Prof. Sodi is the current research chair in mental health and society at the University of Limpopo, and his keynote talk is focusing on capacity building in mental health research in Africa. So over to you, Prof. Sodi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, Prof. Sodi.
I'm not sure if you can hear me because I realized that there have been connectivity challenges since the session started. So I'm just going to show my face.
Yeah, you're loud
okay,
and
no, thanks. Yes, I'll show my face just for a few seconds, and then from there, I will mute the video. The reason why one has to show face is just to ensure that I'm not a fake. So I am a real human being, as you can see. So, but from now on, I'll just switch with the video. Thanks to the organizers of this meeting for inviting me to come and interact with you today. And I must as well just indicate that in my language in South Africa, we have a popular saying, and I always want to share this with fellow academics and researchers. The saying goes, and I'll basically just say it in English, even though in my language, of course, it would be difficult to express it here, but just trying to approximate what it means is hunters of a hippo will always meet at the riverbank. And so what this implies is, in the past, in our context, people would always wake up in the morning and go to the riverbanks to go and hunt for hippos. Now, if you are there in the river or somewhere along the riverbank and you see somebody walking in that space, and usually this would happen early in the mornings, and if you see somebody walking in that same space, it means that person is also looking for the same animal that you are looking for. And wisdom has it that you may as well become friends because you are all looking for the same animal. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because over the years, I've realized that there are many people I meet along the way in the academic space, in the research space. And whenever we have meetings and conferences, these are people that I would meet from time to time. And so I believe over the years, some of these people have indeed become my friends. And I've been looking through in terms of the people who are attending. I could see some familiar names. I saw Krieg Lund there. I saw Melanie. I saw Charlotte. I saw Roxanne. I saw Walter Mangezi and so on. So these are people that I have met over the years. And little did I realize that we'll also be meeting in a platform like this. I have some slides, and maybe Biggie, you could be able to show them from your side because I'm not sure if I will be able to reflect them on my side here. Can you please just, yeah, if you can go to this slideshow mode. Right, I just prepared a few slides, and I believe we can then quickly go through this. I realize that time is not on your side, and so try to be as fast as we can. I've been requested to come and speak about capacity building in mental health research in Africa. I believe and I suspect this request came through for me to speak about this because this is one of the topics that is very dear to me, and I've spent a lot of time and energy in my academic and research life, in my professional life, trying to do precisely this, which is to build capacity, particularly early career researchers and postgraduate students. Now, I've decided to structure my presentation in this way. You have the treatment research gap in mental health. I will then briefly comment about weak capacity for mental health research. And I'll then move on to talk about some priorities for mental health research in sub-Saharan Africa. And then I'll go on to talk about building mental health research capacity. And then I'll, of course, give some example, and then I'll go to conclusion. So next slide, please. So I think this is something that is familiar for most of us here. We realize that though there has been considerable progress made in recent years to better understand mental health problems, including the discovery of effective treatments, reality is that most people suffering from these conditions receive little or no treatment. This mental health treatment gap is more pronounced in low and medium income countries such as those in sub-Saharan Africa. One of the key interventions to tackle this challenge is to build the research evidence that will guide the process of scaling up of mental health services. However, there is a great and urgent need to reduce the research gap, which refers to the difference between the research information that is needed to develop the best possible services in a given setting and what is currently available. So there's always that gap, and it is therefore important to try and close that gap. The next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. Now, we see that one of the key hindrances to conducting high-quality research is the weak capacity faced by many countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And what are some of the key reasons for this weak capacity? We've seen in most cases, in most places, that lack of funds for mental health research, lack of properly trained staff, one of those key problems there, lack of or little dedicated time for capacity building, lack of research culture, lack of or no research collaborations, limited or no opportunities for mentorship. And I'm aware that mentorship has been mentioned and it has been identified as one of the key needs. And of course, one of the biggest problems in our continent is inadequate infrastructures, inadequate funding for health research, and even worse, for mental health research. So these kind of issues ultimately lead to these kind of problems that we have. Now, I just want to comment on some priorities for mental health research in sub-Saharan Africa that were identified recently when we had the meeting that was hosted by the Academy of Science of South Africa and the Academy of Medical Sciences in the UK. And this was held in Johannesburg on the 21st to the 22nd of November in 2022. Now, very interestingly, during that workshop that was held, and I could also advise colleagues that the report is available on the website of the Academy of Medical Sciences. And of course, quite a number of colleagues that I've seen in attendance here were also key people there during the workshop. Some of the people I've already mentioned. Now, what I found very interesting in terms of the workshop is these 6 key areas or key themes that were identified in terms of the priorities for mental health research in sub-Saharan Africa. First one is strengthening and diversifying the data sources. Very important, and that there's a need for additional epidemiological data to, for example, improve understanding of disease burdens. The second priority was the development of consistent, locally defined, and standardized and appropriate metrics for valued outcomes. In other words, there's importance in terms of consistency in methodologies across studies and the use of contextually validated and standardized measures. The third priority that came up from that workshop was the importance of promoting translational development, which include the need for additional research at all stages of the translation and implementation. The fourth priority that came up was strengthening of partnership. And of course, we realize what is happening in AMARI, the significance of these partnerships that seem to have flourished over the years. And obviously this will translate into building relationships with people with lived experiences, for instance, as another important thing. Optimizing the mental health care workforce, for instance, the need to address the mental health challenges of workers. And finally, strengthening advocacy in order to achieve some of the concerns above. We need to make sure that we strengthen advocacy. So those were some of the priorities that came, but very importantly as well, during the same period of the workshop, there was a half-day workshop that took place, the same place, same venue. And this was the workshop that looked at mentorship, looked at capacity building specifically for early career researchers. And some of the recommendations that came up during the that half-day workshop was the need to use multiple approaches to support the personal and professional development of researchers, including different types of mentoring. For instance, developmental mentoring, peer mentoring, technical training, leadership development, and coaching. Another recommendation was that the workshop emphasized the need for mentoring career development support to benefit early to middle career researchers. And also importantly was that such initiatives need to be tailored to local context and the needs of the researcher's background, career stage, and personal preferences. And there was also the need to develop and implement partnerships and international networks. Now, building mental health research capacity. One of the key interventions to ameliorate this problem is to build mental health research capacity. Now, how do we do that? We can do that by training critical mass of people to equip them with skills to conduct mental health research. And what are those platforms that we could look at in order to carry out this kind of task? The academic institutions and universities to offer postgraduate training in mental health. I'm aware that the different universities in AMARI are actually entrusted with that responsibility to ensure that we can increase that capacity through postgraduate training. And I think a lot of good work is being done in this particular instance. The role of government in providing the necessary resources for capacity building and the development of relevant policies to foster research capacity development. Sadly, in many instances in our continent, we find that there's not much happening in terms of government coming forward to assist in terms of capacity building. And I think this is a very important area that needs to be taken care of by government. The power of networking, very important element if we really want to make a difference and to advance the agenda of building capacity. And I think AMARI, in the kind of work that is being done, this is obviously a very excellent initiative. And I thought I could also mention here that a few of us, and I saw Walter being an active investigator from the University of Zimbabwe, we have launched a few years ago something called the Pan-African Mental Health Research Network. And this is a network which is now comprising of about 10 countries. And we started off largely trying to conduct research in the area of culture and mental health. And gradually, we have now started to actively work on building capacity for early career researchers and postgraduate students. And I think there is a lot of synergies between what we do and what AMARI is doing. It will be interesting to have these organizations probably working together as we move into the future. Another important platform, of course, is scientific outputs through conference and joint publications. And I was very impressed with what we saw from the previous speaker there. A lot of outputs that are coming up, which just shows that that would essentially be a very important element in terms of building capacity. Professional and non-governmental organizations, national and continental ones, learned societies, federations for mental health. These are also important constituencies that should also come on board to try and fast track the issue around capacity building. Of course, regional bodies like Africa CDC, the World Health Organization, Africa region, all these are important structures that can help to do that. Now, one of the things, as I did mention earlier on in my introduction, is the passion around capacity building. And also, as you would have seen when I was introduced, I have taken up a research chair in mental health and society, and the chair is funded by the South African Medical Research Council, by the National Research Foundation, and the University of Limpopo. And at the same institution, I have a colleague that I've been working very closely with. He's also funded by the National Research Foundation at the University of Limpopo. And his chair is on schools as enabling environments. So what we have done, and by the way, I need to mention that these chairs were started this year, so it's still very fresh, and we have actively been trying to get our act together. But what has already started to come clearly now is what we decided to jointly work on, and we agreed that the two of us will probably spend more than 50% of our energies and time and resources on this initiative called Promoting Mental Health in places of learning and development, something that we could simply call prepare. So the idea here was, we realized that because he's working in the school's environment, and I'm working on issues relating to mental health. So then we conversed and said, well, we could as well make a difference if we invest a lot of our time and energy in trying to deal with mental health issues and challenges in places of learning and development. Hence, then we came up with this initiative, which we see has already started to bear some fruit. And what is it intended to do? The first element there, as you can see, is a two-pronged initiative. Firstly, to build research capacity to students, with regard to early career researchers, and also reaching out to communities and schools to make sure that indeed the issues around mental health are well understood and appreciated. And then the second element related to this being to implement interventions that would address mental health problems in these settings. So those are the ideas that I thought I should share with you. And maybe the last slide, Biggie, if you could just go to the next slide. In conclusion, I would say that research capacity development is an important intervention that should be considered given the rising levels of mental health problems in sub-Saharan Africa. AMARI is one such intervention that has the great potential to contribute towards research capacity building in Africa. The success of AMARI and other such interventions should indeed be supported, and I do appreciate the kind of support that AMARI is receiving from the different international funders, because it is only through that that we can have success with these kind of initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those profound words, Prof. Sodi. You're talking about mentorship, capacity building, priorities for mental health in sub-Saharan Africa, and what role is our government playing. And really underpinned in all this is the power of networks and the power of collaboration that cannot be underplayed, and working together with the regional and global bodies. Such a powerful talk. Thank you so much. So in the interest of time, and apologies that we are running out of time, but as we head towards the end of our program, we'll hear from our AMARI partner institutions on their plans for the next 4 years. We'll start with the University of Zimbabwe. I'll just run through the 6 institutions that we have. So the University of Zimbabwe, University of Cape Town, Addis Ababa University, University of Ghana, we'll have University of Zambia, we'll have King's College London, and I'm not sure if we do have Kumuzu University of Health Sciences. So in that order, please. And I kindly request you not to go over 5 minutes per presentation. So we'll start with the University of Zimbabwe, and I'll call upon Dr. Mangezi to take the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Definite, for that. And thank you, Prof. Sodi, for your presentation and the previous speakers. I'm the institutional lead for University of Zimbabwe for AMARI. And I'm just going to give you an overview of what we plan to do in AMARI-II. We're quite happy with AMARI-I, so we're building up on that. So we've already identified 7 PhD students. 3 will be fully funded, and 4 nested in other projects, so they'll have partial funding. We're actually in the process of advertising our postdoc. We're hoping to recruit 3. So this is what we are now working on and putting in place. During the course of the year, we are hoping to set up, that will be next year, the MPhil program centered in at the University of Zimbabwe, and we'll be doing the same in partnership, I think, with the Malawi, who are also setting up the same program. So in Zimbabwe, we hope to recruit 3 students whom we will try and, with the support of UCT, we will try and work with and build up on. We'll also try and work with our partners, like the Ministry of Health, where we hope to get interns who work in the Ministry of Health in the mental health space to actually interact with our fellows and build up capacity. Now, the scope of research of the positions that we've had from our PhD scholars and our postdoc, they cover a good range of areas. There's cultural adaptation and screening tools as well. And people have looked at substance misuse, which is actually quite a scourge globally right now. And there's also workplace health. Our outputs are going to, we'd like our graduates, would like all our candidates to actually graduate, see it through. And I think from AMARI-I, the framework that was set up showed that the capacity is there. We hope to get 20 publications from this and probably raise at least $1 million of US dollar funds in collaboration and grant application. And we'd also like to get our scholars to be involved in policy engagement by writing up briefs and disseminating their work into the workspace, media engagement, and community engagement. Thank you. And thank you. So I'll hand over to the next PI.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mangezi. I'll invite Prof. Claire from UCT, University of Cape Town.
Thanks so much, Definite. And I just want to say hi quickly with my video on. So I am going to present on behalf of the UCT team, which is Prof. Catherine Sorsdal, myself, Ms. Sangawa Mobo, who's our admin assistant, and Mr. Jean van der Merwe, who is our finance officer. So I'm also delighted to be online with a lot of fellow AMARI-I fellows. And I agree with Definite and Jermaine that the AMARI training and support has been invaluable. And I'm very excited that I can support and mentor others as well. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of our activities, which are designed to align with the overall AMARI vision. So at UCT, we will be training 8 MPhil fellows from AMARI countries and 1 PhD fellow from South Africa. We have selected 6 AMARI MPhil fellows for 2024, 4 of whom have come through our postgraduate diploma in public mental health, and we are very proud of those candidates. We are in the final stages of selection for the UCT PhD, and we'll be interviewing shortlisted candidates next week. Additionally, we will be offering short-term fellowships for South African policy specialists in collaboration with the South African Human Rights Commission. And these are the interns that others have also mentioned. And we're going to cover various aspects of public mental health during these fellowships. And as Dr. Mangezi mentioned, we will be supporting our colleagues in Malawi and Zimbabwe in the development of relevant MPhil public mental health programs. So just to give you a quick overview of the MPhil Public Mental Health Program, which is offered jointly by UCT and Stellenbosch University through our Ellen J. Fisher Center for Public Mental Health. The MPhil was initiated in 2012, and we have 59 students who have completed their program so far. As you can see, they come from a range of backgrounds, and they're working full-time while doing their masters. At the beginning of the program, we bring everybody to Cape Town, or people come to Cape Town for an orientation block, along with the new PG Dips who have their own lecture block. At the end of the orientation block, we present a 6-week online writing course just to kickstart the academic writing process. And then we offer monthly webinars to support students, very important for postgrad students. There's a bit of psychosocial support from us and their peers, and we also provide academic content, and Sungalwa and I provide ongoing support, and the students are also supported by excellent supervisors. So next slide. Yes, that one. Thank you. We're very proud of our MPhil graduates who hail from 12 countries. Many of our students have gone on to PhD programs, jobs in academia and ministries of health, and they continue to make an impact in public mental health, and quite a few of them are actually online today. So we are very proud of them. And the last slide is just a photo of our public mental health students and some supervisors at our lecture block in February this year. And our vision for AMARI-II is to continue to contribute to the global public mental health community. And we are delighted to collaborate with all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you for keeping on time. I now invite Prof. Atali from Addis Ababa University.
Thank you very much, Definite. AMARI-II Launch, the Matalai Alam, country lead, Ethiopia, Addis Ababa University. Next slide, please. Yeah. Our PhD program in the Department of Psychiatry started in 2011, and so far we have 17 graduates. Of these graduates, 7 have received support from AMARI, and we have 19 current students, and 5 of them are from AMARI-I, who are now finishing their thesis writing and paper publishing. We have 2 from Tanzania and 1 from Kenya. Next slide. And in AMARI-I, we had 8 PhDs and PhD fellows and 4 postdocs, except 1. All of the candidates came from higher learning institutions. They have published over 30 publications during their training year. These are our postdocs in AMARI-I, all of them from higher learning institutions, and some have become professors and department heads and deans. These are AMARI-I PhD graduates, where we have 3 of them. And these are just almost graduating, working on their papers and thesis. Because of COVID-19, their data collection has been delayed, and because of that, they have not completed. When we come to AMARI-II, we plan to train 8 PhD fellows, 2 from Somaliland and 3 postdocs. They are expected to publish as much as those from AMARI-I. And the progress so far with AMARI-II is we have openly advertised the postdoc and PhD positions, and we received, next slide, and there were 53 applicants for PhD, and we shortlisted 11 of them, and we had 3 applicants for 1, actually we had intended 1, but now we are 3. So those shortlisted PhD applicants were assessed, their concept notes and presentations were assessed by external assessors, and our external assessors were these colleagues from London and South Africa. As a result of this assessment, we were able to recruit 5 PhD fellows for AMARI-II and 2 postdocs for this AMARI-II. So these are really people who have achieved good in their previous training, and that's what we're planning to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Atali. We'll move on to University of Ghana, and I'll invite Dr. Benedict.
Thank you, moderator. I just put on my video to say hi to everyone. I'll put it off now. Thank you. Next slide. Yes, so next slide. So as Dixon alluded to earlier, Ghana and the West Africa is one of the new babies on AMARI. And just to give you go to memory lane, this was actually conceived somewhere in 2018 when we met one of the Debt Loss programs in Joburg. And I want to recognize my senior colleague here at the university, Prof. Andare, who actually got us thinking and just started talking to Dixon, they're also co-directors. He also has the fund and a Deltas program here. And obviously, the story has always been that persistent follow-ups, and this is where we are now. And Dixon gladly agreed to include West. Yes, I hope it works now. Right, so we have 4 countries made up of the West Africa Hub. Ghana, that hosts the Secretariat. Then we have Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire West. So these are the institutions that we will be working with. Next slide. Next slide. Can you hear me? All right. So this is not really very critical. What is important is just to let you know how the hub is managed by the director. In terms of our plans for building capacity, we also have a bit of the cake. So we have 3 PhD fellowships for the West African hub and 1 postdoc. And we have been doing some work in that area. Next slide. We are hoping to expand the 3 by being very smart in how we use that pot of money. Some achievements, we've put our team together in terms of the Secretariat. So this is Prof. Adongo, who was here in a while but had to drop off for another meeting. Dr. Joanna Futu and my other colleague, who is a coordinator. So Prof. Adongo is the institutional lead. Joanna is the coordinator and research assistant, Sweden. Next slide. Other things that we have been able to do in terms of our recruitment, we have completed our recruitment process, if I can say. We advertised somewhere in July and went through the process, and finally we were able to select the 1 candidate just for Ghana for now. We are in the process of providing the offer letters. Next slide. There was also a site visit by the main secretariat in Zimbabwe, and these are some images from the site visit, which was really very successful. Essentially, because it's a new site, it's a new hub, they needed to check whether we were ready to be part of this. And my impression is that they were impressed. Just before I go into what we are hoping that our outcomes would be, anticipated outcomes would be, just to clarify that we have, like I said earlier, we have 3 PhDs and 1 fellow, the postdoc. The plan is that the 2 PhDs fellows left would be, if you like, ring fence for the other countries who make up the hub. And we are trying to see how we can collaborate with existing programs that are ongoing in those hub countries and universities to see how we can cost share and possibly increase that number to possibly 4 or even 5. So other colleagues, I know people have applied from other regions, other countries within the South Africa, the West African sub-region. Please just know that we are now going to be turning our attention to opening up the adverts for those countries very soon. What we are hoping to do, as Prof. Saleh said, we are also hoping that with this, we'll get lots of publications, but also grant funding, just very much in line with the AMARI objectives. But also our PhD, postdoc fellow would also be contributing to teaching here at the University School of Public Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benedict. We'll move over to University of Zambia, UNZA, and I'll invite Dr. Paul Ravi.
Thanks, Definite. So we are also infants, if not babies, to join the AMARI program. And This will be for the first time that we'll be introducing PhDs in psychiatry, thanks to AMARI again. So we have 7 positions, and all of them would be for PhD. We already advertised the program. It's more than a week now, and people are showing a lot of interest in that. And we are hoping to get many applicants to come in for the program. We would declare the verdicts by 21st of November, and we will share those results with the steering committee. And once they give us the final go-ahead, then we'll start the program from 21st of November. Next slide, please. So basically, we want to build capacity in the department. So the first preference would be given to the staff members who would want to enhance their education and do a PhD. We would also look at students who are already in a PhD program. They can continue with AMARI and finish well in time with AMARI support. Definitely, we'll look into gender equality. We'll have more females than males. This is a full-time program, and all students who will be, working with us would be enrolled as registered students with University of Zambia. Next slide. So our vision is to enhance the learning environment in School of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry, and then later on, the country as a whole, to bring mental health at a more bigger platform. So it will help our faculty to enhance their education and progress in their career. Like right now, University of Zambia does not promote anyone to associate professor if they do not have a PhD. So this is a very, very good opportunity for our colleagues and friends to enhance their career. We look into research in key areas, and those key areas would later on bring in policy changes and also enhance employment opportunities. We are envisaging at least 21 publications, if not more, through this AMARI contribution. Thank you so very much. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi. And we'll move over to King's College London, and I'll invite Prof. Melanie Abbas.
Morning, everyone, and thanks, Definite. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Great, thanks. And thanks to all the speakers preceding me. I will definitely try to keep to time. So I'm Melanie Abbas, based at King's College London. We are just about to relaunch our Global Health Institute at King's with this mission that we will be working across all our faculties and disciplines, guided by partners and communities, enabling people from all backgrounds to make a sustainable impact to improving health worldwide. Next slide, please. So we at King's College London, we are very honoured to be part of AMARI. We don't take it for granted, and we feel that we benefited a huge amount from the opportunity to join you for AMARI-I. And I'd like to take this chance to thank the many colleagues at King's, some of whom are on the call today, who joined me in working on AMARI-I. Prof. Jaband has alluded to, and I will just say a few words about that. Some webinars and providing external supervisors or topic experts. But I think it was the downsides. I think it was, you've just gone slightly quickly, Biggie, but that it was predominantly King's led. And although we did try to do some co-teaching, and we did manage to develop a few trainer courses very specifically, for instance, systematic reviewing, it was still pretty dominated by the King's teachers, and it was centered in one faculty at King's. So the next slide, our vision for AMARI-II. Thanks, Biggie. Next slide. Our vision for AMARI-II is to transfer a lot of the education to be African-led. Could I have the next slide, please? I think we've lost and the slide. The person doing the slide, Steph, can you
so
the slides on?
Biggie, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still on. The AMARI-II vision slide is the one that I'm showing now. Is it the one that you?
Yeah, it's just come up. I think it was just a bit of a lag, Biggie. No worries. So we're going to transfer the education to be African-led, so that by the end of the time, we hope that most of our offerings will be transferred over. We're going to build African leadership, and we want to grow our network of supervisors. So the next slide, please. And how are we going to do this? So Dixon's already mentioned the ACES course. That is a research career development course, which we adapted to deliver for the doctoral fellows. And it includes some of the things that have been mentioned today that Jermaine so kindly drew attention to, and so did Dixon. Writing skills, self-development. So self-development included training in peer mentoring, career strategy, work-life balance, and engagement. One of the emphasis there was teaching fellows how to present their work in a punchy way, how to engage with policymakers. Okay, next slide, please. So the vision is that we will be training the trainers, a training model, and perhaps across the 3 hubs, South, East, and West, we'll be looking for champions to take this on in the African institutions. Next slide, Biggie, please. Thanks. And then we're very excited to be partnering with our African Leadership Center, which it was founded by Prof. Alonis Sharkin, and this is a partnership with the University of Nairobi, and they are going to lead. My colleague, Dr. Eka Ikpe from King's, is going to lead on the African leadership. And what we are going to do to grow our network of supervisors is to anchor AMARI much more into the yes, Lisa, that's right. AMARI-I fellows would be absolutely ideal to lead the ACES course. I think we're putting a lot of expectations on our AMARI-I fellows, but they're also going to hopefully become PhD supervisors. And I think that's another area where we're very keen to support. AMARI-II is supporting the supervisors. So yeah, I think we can move on. This is the African Leadership Center who's going to collaborate on the leadership. And finally, I think we're going to grow our supervisors through trying to anchor AMARI much wider across the university, across the faculties, and linking to the KCL internationalization strategy. And the key values there are cultural competence and global outreach, but we also want to address key topics that came up in AMARI, like confronting racism in academia. So the last slide just really shows how we hope to bring all this together and ensure that we transfer ACES to be African-led, building leadership and growing supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Melanie, I think question to pose to the panel. I don't see any hands. Does this mean all the presentations were clear? I know the 2 questions in the comment, Melanie responded to Lisa's question. There was another question from Wanziraima Koni that Lydia responded to. Is there any question that I may have missed? Biggie, you may want to help me on this one if there's any question.
There's one from Charlotte around French-speaking and non-English speaking countries.
Oh, great. Prof. Chibanda, do you want to respond to that question
the
from
question
Charlotte.
was.
I'm trying to find the question.
It says, hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte from the University of Bordeaux in France, and I work in West Africa, particularly in Senegal. Thanks for the inspiring initiative. My question is, how can we facilitate the access of non-English speaking countries to this program? So I think it's a future thinking thought.
Well,
but I noticed the Côte d'Ivoire is there, so maybe you've already thought that through.
So just quickly, it's not really a future thinking thing because in AMARI-I, we collaborated with Côte d'Ivoire. We actually have a publication with one of the fellows from Côte d'Ivoire. So language is not seen as a barrier in the Deltas program. In fact, the Science for Africa Foundation encourages us to collaborate across different languages. You know, with AI, I think a lot can be achieved. So it is not a barrier.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And Biggie, I think one comment in the chat is, can you also share the recording as you share the presentations?
Yes, we'll definitely do that to everyone who registered.
Great, thank you. If there are no other questions, I think we can move on to closing, and apologies for going over time. I think from me, we have a saying in Shona that says, "Aninzeveze kunzwa, anzwa." So loosely translated, those who have ears have heard for themselves. I think we are here not by coincidence, but by intention, and in one way or the other in mental health. And as we are trying to bridge this gap, the mental health gap that exists in our various countries in Africa. And at one point, I saw that we are around 100 people, and I think this just speaks to the importance of mental health in Africa. With those words, I'll hand over to Prof. Chibanda to give us his closing remarks. Over to you, Prof. Chibanda.
Thank you, Definite, and thank you all for your patience, and sorry for the technical glitches, but you know, I'll make this very short. The first thing that I really want to highlight is that over the past couple of years, one of the things we've learned is that across Africa, you know, from Cape to Cairo, we have these isolated pockets of research excellence, people who are doing amazing work across the continent. We believe that through AMARI-II, we can really bring all of these pockets of excellence across the continent to achieve greater impact. This is one of our strategic vision in creating the different hubs, West, East, Southern Africa, because the whole idea is we need to bring in more people in AMARI-II. We need to really be thinking of impact across the next couple of years. So think outside the box. This is not just about AMARI-II, but we are thinking of AMARI-III, AMARI-IV, and the future of the African continent. So with those few words, I once again thank you for attending this official launch. Thank you to our funders, and thank you for all the different principal heads in the different hubs, different institutions, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you the next 5 years. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Prof. Chibanda. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.